Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to tell you a story that, well, it's haunted countless investigators and armchair detectives for nearly 2 decades now. It's a really chilling narrative, one that truly feels like maybe the first great crime mystery of the social media age, even though, it happened before a lot of that took off. So we're talking about Maura Murray. On February 9th, 2004, a 21-year-old nursing student vanished, just gone, without a trace, in the remote, snowy landscape of New Hampshire. We've combed through the available information, witness accounts, all the investigative details we could find, really, to try and piece together the events of that night and grapple with the many, many unsettling questions that still linger. Was Maura's disappearance like a deliberate act, a young woman seeking to escape something? Or was there maybe a more sinister force at play that evening? Let's try and unravel what we know. So, Maura Murray, born in 1982 in Hanson, Massachusetts. By all accounts, she was a bright, highly driven young woman. She started her academic journey at the United States Military Academy at West Point, which is an incredible achievement in itself, studying chemical engineering. But even there, in that really disciplined environment, we see the first maybe hint of something else. An honor code violation for stealing about $5 worth of makeup. Seems small, but at West Point.
Significant in that context, yeah. An honor code violation there isn't treated lightly.
Right. So she then transferred to the University of Massachusetts to study nursing, and here she really did excel. Consistently on the dean's list, star athlete on the track team, her future plan seemed pretty clear. Spend the summer in Oklahoma, work in a hospital, be closer to her boyfriend, Billy, who she'd met back at West Point.
Okay.
So you have this image, right? High achiever, focused, but then these little incidents hint at something else maybe brewing beneath the surface.
And that duality is fascinating, isn't it? It's actually quite common in certain types of cases, this high-achieving facade, but it could be masking some profound internal pressures. That West Point incident, for example, it wasn't just, minor shoplifting. It was a breach of a deeply ingrained ethical system there. You have to wonder, were these incidents sort of smaller leaks in a dam that was maybe about to burst? Did it make a seemingly irrational flight feel, rational to her? It forces you to look beyond just the surface achievements.
And those hints of struggle, they really seem to intensify in the weeks right before she disappeared. Just 3 months before, Maura admitted to using a stolen credit card for food. Now, that charge was apparently going to be dismissed after 3 months of good behavior, but still, she was dealing with that legal issue hanging over her head. Then, just 4 days before she vanished, she reportedly had this intense emotional breakdown after a phone call with her sister. Her sister had revealed some issues with her husband, and Maura's reaction was described as, surprisingly intense, very distraught. And it didn't stop there. 2 days later, her father visited to help her look for a new car. That night, after he'd apparently fallen asleep, Maura crashed his car, his nearly new vehicle, causing about $8,000 worth of damage.
Wow, $8,000.
Yeah. And apparently she had been out drinking beforehand. Insurance was supposed to cover it, but it's another big destructive event right in a row. So, okay, let's recap that. We have credit card fraud, a deeply emotional breakdown, and then crashing her father's brand new car, possibly after drinking. It does paint a picture of some intense distress, doesn't it? Maybe even like reckless self-sabotage right before everything changed.
Yeah, reckless behavior is one way to put it. But from an investigative angle, it also screams crisis. These aren't just isolated things, it's an escalation. It's almost as if she was maybe subconsciously or perhaps even consciously sabotaging her current life. What if this wasn't just stress, but sort of burning bridges, making it easier in her mind to justify a dramatic exit? It really suggests a young woman at a breaking point.
Definitely feels like something was building. Which brings us to Monday, February 9th, 2004, the day Maura Murray vanished. In the early hours, she used her computer. She searched for directions to Burlington, Vermont, and also the Berkshires in Massachusetts. Now, she did have a history of hiking with her father, so mountain trips weren't totally out of character. But still.
The timing is key, though, right after all these incidents.
Exactly. And she also tried to find accommodation. She contacted a condo rental place in Bartlett, New Hampshire, but they told her she needed to book, way further in advance.
Yeah.
She then apparently tried another hotel in the area, but seemingly didn't manage to book anything. Also on that Monday, she sent a short email to her boyfriend, Billy. It read, "I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promised the call to data." The message was silent, "Love you more." A little cryptic, maybe.
Didn't feel like talking,
Yeah.
Suggests withdrawal, perhaps.
Maybe. But what's even more unsettling is what she emailed her professors at UMass Nursing and her boss at an art gallery job. She told them she'd be out of town for several days because of a death in her family.
But there was no death in the family.
No. None at all. It was complete fabrication. A lie to get out of school and work commitments. And beyond just the emails, there's more evidence suggesting she was planning some kind of departure. She'd meticulously packed up all her belongings in her dorm room into boxes, textbooks, personal items, everything. She even took down posters and, weirdly specific, removed the axe she had hanging on her dorm room wall. It really looks like she was planning on leaving UMass entirely, doesn't it?
The packing is significant. It's not just throwing a few things in a bag for a short trip. Packing textbooks, taking down wall decorations. That suggests a more permanent departure from that specific place, that life.
So around 3:30 p.m. that Monday, Maura left her dorm room in her car, the one that was already damaged from the earlier crash. At 3:40 p.m., she stopped at a nearby ATM and withdrew $280. That left her bank account almost empty.
Which is interesting timing, withdrawing almost everything right before leaving.
Right. She was apparently due to be paid soon, but she took out nearly all she had right then. After the ATM, she went to a liquor store and bought about $40 worth of alcohol. Kahlua, Bailey's, vodka, and some boxed wine. Then, at 4:37 p.m., Maura checked her voicemail. And that was the last recorded activity on her cell phone, ever.
So if we put all that together, the meticulous packing, the fabricated family emergency, emptying the bank account, buying alcohol, it really sharpens that question. Was she running to something specific or just desperately running from everything that had been happening? And maybe we should differentiate here. A planned escape usually implies some thought about a destination, resources, maybe a safe place to land. Maura's actions seem, well, a bit more chaotic, maybe. Emptying the account, yes, but then driving a damaged car, crashing it remotely, refusing police help. It almost feels more like a spontaneous flight fueled by immediate pressure rather than a meticulously planned new life. That difference could be crucial.
That's a really good point. It feels deliberate, yes, but maybe desperate too. Which leads us to the crash itself. Around 7 p.m. that evening, Maura crashed her car, the Saturn, into a snowbank along Route 112 in Woodsville, New Hampshire. It's a pretty remote area, especially back then, especially at night in February. A nearby resident heard a thud, looked out, saw the car against the snowbank, and called the sheriff's office. Another resident nearby also saw someone walking around the vehicle shortly after the crash. Okay, now this next part is absolutely crucial. A local school bus driver, Butch Atwood, was driving home and came upon the scene. He stopped. He saw a young woman alone in the car. He later identified her as Maura. He said she was shook up but not injured. No obvious blood, but she was cold and shivering.
Understandable after a crash in the coal.
Right, but here's the key thing. Maura specifically asked him not to call the police. She claimed she'd already called AAA for roadside assistance.
Which wasn't true.
Not true at all. AAA had absolutely no record of any call from her or about her car. Atwood then offered to let her wait in his house nearby, literally just yards away where it was warm, until help arrived. She refused. She said she preferred to wait in her car. He noted she seemed shaken up, but he didn't think she seemed intoxicated. So he drove the short distance to his house to call the police himself, since she clearly needed help and wasn't calling them. The police arrived incredibly quickly. Just a few minutes later, reports say less than 10 minutes after Atwood left her to make the call. But in that tiny window of time, Maura Murray was gone.
Vanished.
Completely.
Yeah.
No one inside the car, no one outside near the vehicle. The car was locked. Police noted red stains inside, consistent with the boxed wine she bought. Her debit card, credit cards, and cell phone were missing from the car. And they'd never been located or used since that day. Some of the liquor bottles she'd purchased were also gone. Her backpack was still there, though.
So she took essentials, money cards, phone, maybe some alcohol, but left other belongings.
Exactly. And then there's one more potential sighting. But half an hour later, another passerby reported seeing a young person moving quickly on foot, heading eastbound on Route 112, maybe 4 to 5 miles east of the crash site. If that was Maura, it's the last anyone might have seen of her.
Yeah.
And then, just silence. Nothing.
And this is where the case just goes cold almost instantly. You have this clear timeline leading right up to the crash, but then, poof, gone in minutes. Her refusal of help, the false AAA claim, the rapid disappearance, leaving some things but taking others. It suggests either she had a profound, urgent reason to get away from that specific scene immediately, or
someone else intervened.
Or someone else intervened very, very quickly. The speed makes abduction seem like a very real possibility you have to consider seriously.
The very next day, Tuesday, a missing persons report, an official one, was issued. Maura's father, Fred, drove up immediately, and he and the police began searching the area. They brought in search dogs, but the dogs reportedly lost her scent very quickly, just about 100 yards from the car. Maybe the road contamination, maybe something else.
Scent trails can be tricky, especially in snow and on roads.
Yeah. They searched by air, helicopter searches, ground searches on foot, checked bus logs, looked for tracks in the snow, though fresh snow fell overnight, complicating things. But after about 10 days, officials suspended the active ground search. They stated they felt they had thoroughly covered the immediate vicinity of the crash site. The official indication at the time was that they had no specific reason not to believe Maura might have left on her own, maybe trying to escape her problems, perhaps got lost or succumbed to the elements further away.
Which must have been incredibly hard for the family to hear.
Absolutely. Her family adamantly disagreed. Her father, especially, has always been quoted saying there was no way that she would ever put the two most important people in her life through this nightmare. They firmly believed she wouldn't just disappear without contacting them if she could. Officials said they'd continue background checks, working with the FBI to understand her state of mind, but no further major ground searches were planned by law enforcement at that point. Maura's family, however, never stopped searching.
And you see that tension all the time in these cases, unfortunately. Law enforcement has procedures, focuses on tangible evidence, jurisdictional limits. While the family operates on this deep personal knowledge and intuition, the police suggesting she might have left voluntarily versus the family's absolute conviction she'd never do that, it creates this huge psychological gap. It's a clash of, evidence versus emotional certainty, and sometimes it can really hinder things early on.
The frustration for the family must have been just immense. So many questions, zero answers, and some of those questions got even weirder as time went on, like the voicemail. While Maura's boyfriend Billy was on a flight coming up to New Hampshire shortly after she disappeared, he received a voicemail. He said he recognized the sound as Maura sobbing. It's muffled crying, basically.
A voicemail after she disappeared.
Yeah. The number it came from was traced back to an AT&T calling card. Billy's mother actually confirmed she had brought Maura 2 such cards the previous Thanksgiving. So that seems to connect. But here's the twist. After an investigation, the New Hampshire State Police traced the specific card used for that call to the American Red Cross. They concluded the call was likely unrelated to Maura, maybe a misdial or something related to Red Cross business, and they closed that lead.
The Red Cross? That seems odd.
The family absolutely did not buy that explanation. Why would the Red Cross be calling Billy's phone and leaving a sobbing message? Plus, Billy mentioned he'd been having phone issues around that time, where calls sometimes went straight to voicemail without the caller realizing. So maybe someone was trying to talk and didn't know they were being recorded.
It's incredibly ambiguous, that voicemail. It's like this ghost in the machine of the timeline. If it was Maura crying, it completely contradicts the idea of a calm, planned disappearance. But if it wasn't, then the Red Cross link and the crying itself remain unexplained. It just muddies the waters even more, doesn't it? Shows how hard it is to sort truth from coincidence when people are desperate for answers.
Yeah, definitely. And the mystery just kept deepening. There were press conferences, the family appeared on CNN, helicopters with thermal imaging searched for months afterwards. Nothing. Maura Murray just seemed to have vanished into thin air. The investigation never technically closed, but active leads dried up. In 2007, a reward of $75,000 was offered for information leading to her whereabouts or conviction of anyone responsible. Lots of tips came in, naturally, but they all led to dead ends or were proven totally unrelated. Then came something really bizarre. In 2012, 8 years after she disappeared, a YouTube user calling themselves 112 Dirtbag posted a video. The title was just Happy Anniversary.
Oh, I remember hearing about this. Creepy.
Super creepy. The video itself was just footage of the sky, but the audio is this disturbing, maniacal laughter. It was uploaded on the 8th anniversary of Maura's disappearance, and the username. 1012 was the route she vanished on. And dirtbag was a term her father, Fred, often used publicly to describe whoever he believed might have harmed his daughter.
The specificity is chilling.
It really is.
Yeah.
Police and the family ultimately dismissed it as likely just a sick, cruel joke by someone trying to get attention. But still, the timing, the details.
Yeah.
It's unnerving. Okay, so now let's get to the most recent and maybe the most unsettling development in this case. This happened in 2019. Maura's father, Fred Murray, who has never given up hope of finding answers and strongly believes she met foul play, organized a search of a specific house basement near the crash site.
A specific house? Why that one?
Because he'd actually received a tip about that very house way back in 2004, shortly after Maura disappeared. But the owner at the time refused to let anyone search the property.
Denied access. That's suspicious in itself.
Right. So fast forward to 2019. New owners are living there, and they granted permission for Fred and his team to investigate the basement. Fred brought in 2 separate certified cadaver dogs on different occasions. Both dogs alerted to the presence of human remains in the same spot under the basement floor. Then they used ground-penetrating radar. And the radar scan also indicated an anomaly, something disturbed, right where the dogs had alerted. Fred believes there could be human remains buried there, potentially his daughters.
Wow, after all this time.
Yeah. He was quoted saying something like, "Whoever's there, there's a human body, a dead body. The odds are, I think that it's my daughter, but if somebody's there, only time will tell." Just heartbreaking. Now, New Hampshire officials responded. They stated they are still investigating Maura's case, but they also maintained that particular property had been searched by law enforcement in the past, including with dogs, and they said nothing of significance was discovered back then.
So conflicting information there between the private search and the official stance on past searches.
That's exactly. Fred Murray feels, in his words, stuck, frustrated, rejected.
Yeah.
He's been pleading with the state police to excavate that spot in the basement. So after all these years, this development, it reignites hope for answers, maybe closure, but it also just deepens the mystery in some ways. What does this mean for the original investigation?
It's a hugely significant moment, potentially. It validates the family's persistence, for one, but it also really highlights a critical challenge in cold cases. Forensic technology evolves, right? And with the initial searches maybe done under different protocols or with less sensitive equipment, truly thorough. If human remains are eventually found there, it completely reframes everything. It shifts the dominant narrative away from a potential runaway scenario towards something far more tragic and likely criminal. It forces a reevaluation of every assumption made back in 2004. And it raises a big question for all cold cases, really. How many other crucial pieces of evidence might still be hidden, just waiting for the right technology or a fresh look, maybe literally just beneath the surface?
That is a haunting thought. So we told you the baffling, frustrating, and deeply sad story of Maura Murray, a young woman who, one cold February evening, seemed to just disappear. From the conflicting signals she sent before she left, to that strange crash on a dark road, her refusal of help, and now this recent potential discovery of something hidden in a nearby basement.
Yeah.
And Peace Kids continues to haunt everyone who looks into it. The question, the big one, still hangs heavy. Was Maura Murray abducted, maybe by someone local, possibly killed and buried just yards from where her car was found? Or did she somehow, for reasons we might never grasp, manage to intentionally vanish that night, only for some other tragedy to befall her later on? What detail stands out to you as the most unsettling piece of this puzzle? If you found this story as captivating and chilling as we do, and you want to explore more terrifying topics and complex mysteries, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope you'll join us again soon.